to say something? All right. We'd love to have you guys say something. We'd love to close out with you. So before we do that, just a couple things. You're seeing all these videos up here. These came out of the Hatler library, and I got some from Bill Bitter, and I found one in my box. And if you want to get access to these, they're on YouTube, a lot of them now. And track me down, I can get them. The Facebook thing, you've heard of it, right? Facebook? I put a Facebook post today that said, if ever they get around to having grid paper with yard lines on it for a Facebook interface, you'll probably get on. Anyway, I took a bunch of the quotes and things that people have been saying. I wrote them down on here for you. A few years back when we were fighting over the schedule, we had you write a history of the band program, and I got another copy of that for you here. Here's some funny quotes, that have me roll those toes, horns up, all that kind of stuff. But it's all right here. Last thing, on the table, there's some pages where if you're not on the Facebook thing, write your name and number down, your email address in particular. It'll be a good way to kind of keep in touch with everybody. I'm looking out here and I'm basically seeing family. And it's a family that you guys helped create. And so we thank you so much for what you've done.
I'm really surprised to see this many people here. I thought when Jason and I were emailing about this, that there'd be, 20, 30 folks, but there's a lot more folks than that. One of the things that we've talked about a lot was that the environment was such that we could do what we were able to do. And I personally appreciated the parents so much, because one of the things that nobody knew was anytime we would roll up to a place, he would disappear. Okay? And it was me and Bill and the parents to unload everything there was to unload. He went away. The drummers had to do their stuff because their stuff was messy. But the reality was, we were having fun. I had a tremendous amount of fun. And in fact, I miss teenagers. I had a great time with teenagers. But one of the things, and Mr. Bitter and I were talking about that just a little bit ago, one of the things that really was a ton of fun was winning. One of the first times that we went to California, I really think that contributed a lot to our success, because we got out of the environment, everybody was there, we saw different things, saw new things. But one of the first contests that we went to, at the end of the contest, the band directors got the score sheets, and you got an opportunity to look at the score sheets. And at this time, it was early in the whole development, and it was just the two of us and Mr. Bitter, just the three of us. And we were looking at the score sheets and looked down at the bottom, and it said 55. And we knew, okay, we're not as big as some of these California bands, but we thought we'd done pretty well. It's like, 55? That's not even C. This is terrible. What were we, we've put ourselves in a bad position. We can't be successful with a 55. How are we going to tell these kids that they came all this way and that their very best has got a 55? And so we had an opportunity to go talk to the judges, and Phil takes this sheet over and to the head judge and asked him to explain this 55. And, we could see him, nodding and doing all of this back, And he comes back to us and he says, that's not a 55, that's an SS. That stands for Sweepstakes Awards. Yeah! I so much appreciate the support that we had. The students who were willing to do the things that we asked them to do, some of which we didn't know could it be done or not. But we never told anybody that, so they just did it. And then the parents that supported us and the administration that supported us. We had a wonderful time when we were here, had the best team to work with, and thank you so much for coming. It's good to see all of you.
Yeah. It's the same hat. I remember where it was. It was something. I don't know what to say, folks. First of all, very humbled. I really am by you being here tonight, whoever you are. Married somebody or one of those people I didn't remember or whatever. I'm still honored that you're here, humble and honored. I know some of you, and I tell Carol, I don't really understand why. You know what it is, because I'm just an old country boy and showed up, and did my thing. Like Carol said, I didn't know what I was doing anyway, but just did it. I guess the thing I did most is I just showed up every day. I was always here, I guess. I had a saying that I developed later on. What we do is I teach from bell to bell, bell to bell, no waste of time. I've got two things. I've got students and I've got time. We're going to use those two things together as best we can to do what it is we're going to do. And that was there's no magic to it. There's no special formula. I have no secrets. I just don't know what it was. But it was great. It was great to be a part of it. And it wasn't just me. You've heard it. I've heard it. And my speech has been given already to others, and that's okay. That's really good. The biggest thing is to know that your kids are in music. That's the biggest thing to me. That's when I hear that makes me, that's the best thing I can hear from you, is that your kids are in music. I can't believe some of you are grandparents. That's but a couple of things I might share with you. I'm glad that Wally is here, Dr. DeLay is here, but the first superintendent really was Jasper Coward. He was kind of on the way out, and he's the one that really first officially hired me. He told me one thing: if you were a superintendent and I'm going to tell a band teacher one thing, what would you tell him? Would you tell him build a program, or make them love music, or make them behave? No, he said the band must march in the Gilbert Day Parade every year. And I said, okay, I can handle that. So see, a couple years before that, the band hadn't marched because of the UVA Band Day, and so there was some problems with that. So that was the one thing he told me, and so I said, okay. Mr. Robbie's been mentioned, or Dr. Robbie now, and some of you may or may not know, by the way, we did the same thing 18 years ago, had a party for us, 18 years ago when we left, and some people thought I would retire, but I didn't really retire. I just turned the page and went to another district and taught little kids. So for 18 years in Gilbert, 18 years in that district, and then in June 1st, I officially retired. All that meant really was that I stopped working for a district to pay me. And I retired, and I have a child bride, so she's not ready to retire yet, so I've got to wait for her to retire. So what am I going to do while I'm retired? And I could think, well, what am I going to do? And what I'm doing, but frankly, is I'm volunteering with a school down the road and teaching band. So I don't get paid to do it. I thought, I need a hobby. What better hobby than teaching kids music? And then I realized, for 43 years, I was paid to do my hobby. Isn't that cool? And so what I'm doing now is I'm still kind of helping out, but I just do the fun stuff to work with the kids. I don't have a key, I don't own a computer, I don't do any meetings, I don't talk to parents, I just go work with the kids. When I want to. If I want to, don't go. That's cool. Matter of fact, I was in the festival parade Saturday. I was with that thing. So I was there. Again, and there I am at the festival parade again. It was. It's longer than it used to be, I think. I don't know. Mr. Riley, the interview I had Mr. Riley at the Gilbert High School, I remember I asked him, I said, what kind of music program do you want to have? He said, well, we're known as an athletic school, and we're known for ag. In those days, Gilbert was a country school, KFFA was a big thing. We're known for ag, so I want to be known as a music school as well. I said, okay, let's go. And I found out years later that he protected me because I didn't know this until a few years ago, actually. But the first year, some folks weren't very pleased with this new band teacher who came on board, and they wanted to get rid of him. But Mr. Riley stood between him and me. I never heard that stuff. I never did. And he told him, he said, give him 3 years. Give him 3 years. That's what he told him. And gave him 3 years, and after 3 years, apparently, I guess we made a few converts, and so we kept going. But I wasn't always, fun roses all with. I wasn't always Mr. Hatler, a fan club out there in the beginning. It was, who is this guy? I could go on and on about Gilbert's stories and things, but one thing I'll share, maybe it's from first that you may not be aware of. And Bill help me out on this if I could misspeak here. But things that we did for the first time ever in Gilbert music program that I'm aware of, and it may surprise you what some of those things were. First of all, we had started the first ever booster club. There were no band boosters when we came to Gilbert. And as Scholz already mentioned, the importance of parents in what we did. And especially marching band, you just can't do it without parents. So that we started the first booster club. We had the first jazz band that was a class ever at Gilbert High School. We had the first assistant teacher ever in Gilbert. That's a whole new story. I could tell why that happened and what all that was about. By the way, Mr. Bitter and Miss Scholz, talk about some green teachers, man. but I was part of that. In the administration, I don't know if it was called. I don't know if they were. I would say this nicely. I don't know if they were nicely or if they were lazy or smart. But what they did is they let me do stuff, and it's already been alluded to by the girls. I was like a district department head, kind of, is what they call me. I got to do a lot of stuff, but I was just a teacher. My pay was I got one prep period, but I was involved in not firing anybody, but in hiring all the interviews. So all the teachers came after me. Almost all of them. I was involved. I made the initial contact with them. I did they called me in the summertime. Personnel would call me in and say, go through the file, we need teachers, whatever music. And I said, okay. So I'd go through the paper file, I'd do the paper screening, I'd make phone calls, I'd set up interviews, and I'd interview the teachers, and I'd recommend 2 or 3 to the principals for them to agree. And I'd got to make a decision, I'd make recommendations. And they always took my recommendation, never let my recommendation turn down. I got to a big story at Marshall. Okay. I called, it was Spencer, Iowa, is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Spencer, Iowa, I called in the middle of July, and to get this, it was her father-in-law, I think, her father one on the phone, and I said who I was, and we got a job opening. He says, and I talked to her, I think. He took the phone away from her, and he talked to me and says, all right, are you serious about this job? Is this just a, what is this? Who are you? So he interviewed me about how serious I was about looking for a job in Arizona. That kind of thing, but the administration, it's so great, the support that we got. One day I was leaving, it was about, I don't know, February, March, it was on Tuesday. Rita will remember this, it was a Tuesday, I think. I was leaving the parking lot, and Mr. Riley was coming from the district office, and he flagged me down in my car, actually my old truck, and he says, the school board wants to buy uniforms for the band and the choir next year. We need to have a purchase order with all the specs and sample uniforms in my office by Friday, 3 o'clock. I said, okay. So we did, but just think about that. It's out of the blue, and I can tell you a story about why that happened. But I won't go there. But the support from the administration was so different. And even in later years, this will blow your mind. This blew my mind. You may or may not know, but maybe things have changed. But in the old days, band teachers and coaches were paid to teach their regular classes, during the day. And we got stipend for teaching extra stuff, on the weekends and the ball games and the things that coaches and band teachers, music teachers do. And it had nothing whatsoever to do with this. But what I didn't know is they were going to redo the stipend format one year. And it came out, when it was done, the head football coach and the head band director got paid the exact same stipend. And guess what? Not only that, but, I got paid more than the head basketball coach, the head baseball coach, going down the line. And my assistants got paid the same as their football assistants did. So the point is, think about a district where, at least at one point, the band was on equal footing with football. Can you imagine that? But that happened. That's true. And that happened, toward the end of my time here. And it had nothing to do with that. I didn't know what was going to happen. It just happened.
Yes, you did.
And
You did have something to do with it.
Okay. That decision itself, I wasn't involved in that, but thank you, Mr. Thank you, Bill. What I did was, and Wally said it, they said, the band work just as hard as a football team does. We see them out there, so we're going to pay them the same. So they did that. Of course, the band thing goes more than just one semester, it's year round. But I was talking about, sorry, I chased a rabbit there. I was doing first. Did I talk about rehearsal outside the band day? Yes, mention that. We had the first, imagine this, the first rehearsal ever outside the band day was us. It had never been done before. Talk about a culture change. I had the first overnight or out-of-state trip I ever done. We did that. Again, why did we do that? Anybody remember the ice cream story? Remember the ice cream story? That tells you, explains why we did that. The whole Gary Log, RCC, all that stuff. Well, we learned from that. And I did take very much pride in trying to build a whole music program. I'm glad Rita mentioned that, because I remember sitting in the hallway over there and telling them the last year, the big year, I said, remember this time. It may never come again. And for you guys, maybe it has come again, but for me, it never came again. But it was a team thing. I was doing new things. Carol help me out. What am I forgetting? New things. But all those things that we did for the first time that weren't normally hadn't been done before that. I want to share with you maybe two of my fondest memories, things that are strongest to me that had a big impact on me personally. And there are two things I want to share. And this first thing happened more than once, but the first time was the most meaningful. We used to live on Saguaro Street, which was just a block away from the old high school. And it was in mid-November, my birthday, happened to be a school day, weekday that year. And so I was in the, back of the house getting ready to go to school, brushing my teeth, and I heard this something. I said, what, the boys turning the TV on? What is that? Radio? What is that? That sounds like the band. And it was. I went out, and when you in that band, the first band, you remember that? I remember you were in that band. Some of you, it was way back. But they were in full uniform and in an arc in front of our house. And they were playing Happy Birthday. And they played the whole show. They played some pet tunes. I kind of felt sorry for Mr. Bitter because he had to get up early to let him in the band room. We were just so close to the school then, the kids, they came to the band room and got the horns and full uniform and walked quietly to our house. But they didn't go back so quietly though. I never heard any complaints from my neighbors about that. But that was a fun memory to think about that. How many, kids get up early in the morning for school, full uniform, and almost all the band was there to play Happy Birthday for me. That was one of my fondest memories of that year. And then the second biggest memory is, I guess I call it the big band. That was the Rose Bowl year. That was that whole experience. The Rose Bowl parade itself, of course, stands out to me. Because I used to, watch it on TV with my mom when I was a little bitty kid, and all of a sudden, the Rose Bowl, there we were, and we turned that corner, and all I could see was people. First, you could see people from the ground to the sky, it looked like, and they were so loud. The crowd knows how loud the band was, and I had a big band, but that band whole year, it was so much. It was fun, but there's a lot of work to it. But just in general, I just remembering that year, what it was like. You have to remember, we went from the smallest band in the state to the biggest band in the state. Because what people don't know is the second year, here I go, I'm rambling. So Carol, tell me one time you shut up, because I'd go all night on this.
Tell this story and then you'll be done.
Okay. But what people don't realize is when first year I came in '79, high school had 1,000 kids enrolled in high school. Now, in Tennessee, I knew one high school that was that big. I thought 1,000 kids was a big school. But in Arizona, it was a small school. We were the smallest division in the state, athletically. I thought 1,000 kids in school, that's all we need. There's 9 through 12. Had 120 kids enrolled in the band, Dwayne's band, 120 kids in the ugly yellow uniforms. I'll tell you, we changed uniform for $1,000, but anyway, that's another story. We had 120 kids enrolled in the band. That's pretty good, 120 out of 1,000 kids in the band program. So that was when I first came. Well, by the time we got to ASU Band Day, it was down to 100. Then ASU Band Day, of 100 kids, only 90 showed up. So 10% of the band didn't go to ASU Band Day. And the reason for not going was things like went hunting, went shopping, went to the mall, had a birthday party, that kind of thing. So that's kind of where we started. But then the second year, what happened was they built the new junior high across the street and pulled the 9th grade out of the high school. So think about that. We were 9 through 12 band. All of a sudden, the kids graduate and nobody comes in. So we went from what I call a 4-bus band the first year to a 1-bus band the second year. Believe it or not, the second and third years I was here, the entire band could get on 1 bus. And we did. We had 26 wins. And the second year we had also 26 color guard. It's kind of cool because we could look big. And I figured out if we'd never stopped marching, they wouldn't count us. So really, we never stopped. We moved the whole time. Nobody counts. So, but the thing is about the band, and they helped. That band was crucial because it was small, yes, but there were no rookies. So that's my second year when had no freshmen come in. I mean, they were all experienced, so they were small, but they were very good for a small band. Anyway, got the first career rating at state that year. The first year we couldn't qualify to go because we weren't good enough. But the whole thing about state marching, I could talk about that. Never too. But I just again so thankful that you're here. It really surprised me that I'm honored, and it just floored me. I had a retirement party in July in Tennessee with a bunch of Hatlers, and I thought that was it, and I would do that, and very good. But for you to do this is a very honor to me, and it's such a great thing to know that it still goes on. The music still lives, and that's me is what it was all about. It's not me, and it's not about me. It's about you, about the kids, your kids, and about music and life and living and growing together. That's what it's all about. Okay, we use a philosophy I have. Some teachers use kids to make music. I hope I use music to make kids. That's what I try to do. Thank you.
Thank you, and we genuinely love you guys, and thank you for what you've done. So thank you all for coming tonight. I think we'd like to try to pull off this picture thing. It's crazy. It's probably a really bad idea, but maybe somebody can draw a grid with some yard lines that shows how to line up. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to line up right here, and I'm going to stand up on that ladder, and it might take a couple of shots, but let's take a picture and then hang out as long as you want and go whenever you need to. Thank you very much.